This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Flyers get a big win, 1-0 last night. Sixers game one of their playoff series tonight. All heard right here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you for just, basically the next 29 minutes. PlaySugarHouse.com. Text board is open for you at 609-403-0973. Who do you think is going to win the series, Sixers or Celtics, and why? How do you feel about the Flyers game last night? Also, we've dropped some breaking news if you heard the Sports Bash. We know that what Javon Hargrave's injury is. As Jeff Mosher said earlier today on Football at 4 on 97.3 ESPN, that they're glad it's not more serious. It's a strained pectoral. So he didn't tear it, so he doesn't need surgery. So it's good that he doesn't have a torn pectoral. We know how that's affected some players in the past. We've already seen some guys have some serious injuries around the NFL, particularly in Dallas, where in Dallas they had Joe McCoy, torn quadricep, and he is out for the year. So the Eagles don't have that with Javon Hargrave. No, it's a pectoral strain of the reports. And it looks like that he's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. So that's the good news. Also, of course, we know Sixers basketball tonight. You hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers versus Celtics. Sixers got some good news today. They will have the 21st overall pick in this year's draft thanks to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So it's another opportunity for them to have more than one first-round pick in the first round. A very nice deal for them. For those who may be wondering who has been a first overall pick before in the past, among those players include Brandon Clark, who played very well for the Grizzlies in the return. Grayson Allen, who is probably one of the more controversial players in all of college basketball. Terrence Ferguson, who is a talented player who we're still waiting to lead up to expectation. St. Joe's DeAndre Embry, and Justin Anderson, a player that a lot of Sixers are familiar with. So you can get a quality player, as in the last several drafts, at 21st overall. So always a good deal to get in on that decision. So that's good news for the 76ers. And I'm excited for this series. I really am. And we're going to break more of the series down coming up about 14 minutes from now. But I cannot overlook the Flyers game last night. You know, we all have these conversations on and off the air about the Flyers. And sometimes we say it in passing. Sometimes we say it seriously, but we don't emphasize it enough. I don't think we can emphasize enough how huge it is to have Carter Hart in that net. Hunter Brody brought it up earlier today. If Brian Elliott was in goal for the Flyers last night, there's a high probability they don't win the game. Not because Brian Elliott's a bum, not because Brian Elliott can't play in the NHL. It's because Brian Elliott doesn't have the level of talent and focus and skill and ability that Carter Hart does. I talked to Kevin Durso about this before. And it's something I brought up multiple times. I know everyone wants to compare Carter Hart to Carey Price because they have similar styles and similar poise. But I'll say it once and I'll say it again right here, right now. To me, if Carter Hart reaches his potential, if Carter Hart continues to play the way he does, if he continues to ascend as he has, his peak is not Carey Price. It absolutely is not. It's Martin Brodeur. Carter Hart makes saves that if you're a Flyers fan, were the same saves that made you cringe and made you throw the television remote when you watched the Flyers play the Devils in the 90s and the 2000s. Carter Hart does things in the net that I remembered seeing Martin Brodeur. And I used to hang out with my Flyer friends, and they'd throw the remote, they'd punch a table, they'd scream why, other expletives as well. Carter Hart is doing those things. And I mentioned this before. Carter Hart, before last night's game, had only played in how many postseason games? It was his 4th postseason game. His 4th. In the previous games, he didn't give up any goals at all. Before that, he was great. He was on fire. And then what happens? Well, things got a little out of hand. Canadians get 5 goals. Flyers lose the game. He gets pulled. Martin Brodeur, in his 4th NHL postseason start, gave up 5 goals. That same team, he led them to the conference finals that year, where they lost in 7 games to the Rangers, who went on to win the Stanley Cup. That's what I think Carter Hart's potential is. He can get you to 7 games in a conference final. Carter Hart has the talent and ability to be utterly and completely great. Carter Hart is the difference maker. And for as angry as I am about just all of the garbage, and I mean garbage in the nicest way, but I mean, how many power plays can you not score on, right? I mean, how many times can you not score? It's absolutely aggravating. I mean, you have the advantage. They're giving you the penalties. They're playing borderline dirty, are the Canadians. I mean, some of those plays that they got penalized on were just completely unnecessary. I mean, you're taking the stick and whacking a guy in between the legs. That's not a slash. That's intentional. Some of these things that the Canadians are doing are just dirty. And you can't take advantage of them going into the penalty box because you have trouble keeping the flow of the offense. You literally have trouble scoring against a team whose goaltender faced the most shots on goal this year. Carey Price had the dubious distinction of leading the NHL in shots faced. He saw more shots on goal that he had to save than any other goaltender in the NHL. The Canadians had some of the worst defense this year in the NHL. And yet all you can muster for a 2-1 series lead is 3 stinking goals. The Flyers need more discipline. I know some of you hockey heads out there are like, they got to get more physical, they got to hit the speedsters, they got to slow them down, blah, blah, blah. The Flyers don't have enough discipline when it comes to the offensive side of the ice. They played much better defense last night. In fact, outside of the loss to the Canadians, in all the games in the bubble up there in Toronto, they've played very good defense in most of the games. And last night, overall, the defensemen showed up. Haig had a good game. Niskanen had a better game. Braun had a very good game. The defensemen were doing their jobs. But it's the guys who are not the defensemen that concern me. Jake Voracek is not an elite goal scorer. He's an elite assist guy, but he did the basic thing. He went to the front of the goaltender, got in the way of a shot, and punched it in. Helped it get in. He's done that twice this series where he's been the guy near the net when the Flyers score a goal. The Flyers have a ton of talent on the ice. From Giroux to Couturier to Kevin Hayes to James Van Riemsdyk to Travis Konechny, who I honestly was surprised he was out there and skating so well last night after he took that slap shot off the side of his ankle. I mean, my goodness. The way he hobbled off the ice the other night, I thought he was going to be out in there in this game, but he was out there. The Flyers have all of this talent up and down the roster on the offensive end. Their forwards, they showed the stat last night. They were among the best in the NFL in faceoffs won. They were among the best in the NFL, or the NHL this year, in doing so many things offensively. They were such a good team when they returned to the ice. When they beat the Bruins and they beat the Capitals and they beat the Lightning, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a fluke. They kept doing the same formula over and over and over again. They were playing great defense. They were pushing the pace on the offense. They were keeping the puck in the offensive end. They were putting tons of pressure on the opposing goaltender to the point where the pucks just happened to go through because if you take enough shots on goal, the majority of the time, they have to get through. Even the best goaltenders are only saving 93 to 96% of the shots taken on them. Well, guess what? There's still 4 to 7% of the shots that get through. But the Flyers are not applying enough pressure on the Canadiens' goaltender. They're not being cohesive. They're being undisciplined with the puck. They're making too many turnovers at costly moments. They're being sloppy on the power play. And if they keep playing like this, they're not making a deep playoff run, no matter how many great games Carter Hart has, because they're going to waste this kid's talent because they're not getting the puck in the net. So when Game 4 comes on tomorrow at 3 o'clock here on 97.3 ESPN, I need to see a little bit more discipline and a little bit more aggression in pushing the pace of the game and taking the action to the Canadiens, because now for 2 straight games, the Canadiens are using their speed and they're using their aggression and they're being borderline dirty and forcing you into a position where you are on the back of your heels. In the boxing analogy, your back is against the ropes and you're playing rope-a-dope when you don't have to play rope-a-dope because you are not facing George Foreman. This is the Montreal Canadiens, the 24th team in the NHL playoffs. This is not fighting one of the best teams in the NHL. This is fighting a team with an elite goaltender and a solid, speedy roster. This is not Ali Foreman. There's no reason why the Flyers should be playing rope-a-dope with this team. There should be no reason why they're on their heels taking all these shots. Flyers tomorrow, 3 p.m. right here, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill, Hunter Birdie with a 1-hour pregame leading you in. I'll have Kevin Durso with me post-game here on Game Night right after the Flyers game right here on 97.3 ESPN. ThePlaySugarHouse.com text board is open for you at 609-403-0973. We're only here up till the Sixers game. Sixers Celtics tonight, 6:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open, 609-403-0973. Coming up next, I'll give you my keys to the Sixers Celtics game, and I'll touch on UFC 252 and the big news that came in the 36 hours after that event as well, right here on 97.3 ESPN. This is Game Night, and I'm Josh Hennig. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open. We'll get to the text in just a moment. 609-403-0973. Just run down the lineup tonight. Sixers basketball coming up next. Bottom of the hour. Sixers Celtics Game 1 right here on 97.3 ESPN. Following that will also be Game 1 of the NBA playoffs. We will get you to Mavs Clippers Game 1 later tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers hockey tomorrow night, Game 4, 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Following that game, it'll be myself and Kevin Durso giving you a post-game recap leading you up to Rockets Thunder Game 1 tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN. PlaceYourHouse.com text board is open 609-403-0973. I'll give you my keys to the Sixers Celtics Game 1 in just a moment. Dan from EHT chimed in and says, Montreal kept battling and lost. You ask what I saw. I saw a Montreal team frustrated. Flyers did what many past champions have done. Not dominate, but just totally frustrate the other team and make them say, why can't we score? That's from Dan in EHT. Well, Dan, my response to that would be, was it the Flyers that frustrated them, or was it Carter Hart? I think Carter Hart frustrated them immensely, as he's done a lot of teams in this bubble up there. He did it to the Capitals. He did it to the Bruins. He did it to the Lightning. And he did it to the Canadiens now for 2 of these 3 games. But you have to admit that there is a frustration level when you're going against a team that did a poor job in the past of playing defense, and now all of a sudden you can't even get that many chances to score on them. And that's where my concern is, Dan EHD. My concern is that the Flyers, they've scored 3 goals in 3 games. I need more than that. I need this team to start winning games 2-0, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, like they were doing before the Canadiens series. And I understand the Canadiens are a tough team, and they're going to keep fighting, and they're going to be there, but I need to see a little bit more discipline from the Flyers out there to get the job done. We'll find out tomorrow, 3 o'clock, right here, 97.3 ESPN, and also 97.3 ESPN mobile app. All Flyers hockey games can also be heard on the app. Sixers Celtics tonight coming up next, about 7 minutes from now. Tom McGinnis on the call for the Sixers radio network. So I have a couple keys for this game. First of all, I think the Sixers, and I've said this multiple times, they can do to the Celtics what they did to the Rockets on Friday night. They can win the rebounding battle. They can force the Celtics into a game where they have almost no second chance opportunities. You got to take the offensive rebound away from them. You have to take the easy shots away from them. You have to slow down their offense by being deliberate with your own offense. If you're efficient offensively like the Sixers can be, if Joel Embiid lets the offense run through him, if Tobias Harris steps up, that's how you're going to win this game, number one. Number two, you have to pick your poison. The Celtics are a very good basketball team. All right? This is not a pushover team. This is not a team that you can take lightly. We saw the Celtics during the regular season with this 4-wing lineup of Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, with guys like Marcus Smart and Brad Wanamaker coming off the bench. They showed everybody that there's a reason why they were the 3rd highest scoring team in the league this year, in the Eastern Conference, I should say. They had the 3rd highest points per game in the Eastern Conference because they all can score. So the Sixers have to make a decision defensively. Who do we let get their points? Now, with the Rockets on Friday night, it was easy. You said James Harden. He's a former league MVP. He's a volume scorer. He's a guy who's going to get his. You're not going to stop him, but you can stop everybody else. So that was an easy decision. With the Celtics, it may not be so easy. Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum have a history this year and before this year of having some pretty great games. Gordon Hayward also has a history in Utah of being a high-level scorer. Jaylen Brown is a threat, as you heard Kevin McCormick say less than an hour ago here on 97.3 ESPN. So you got to pick your poison. Who is the guy that you're going to say will let him get his? If you pick the right guy on any given night, you will beat this Celtics team. Because when the Celtics lost 24 times this year, it was because they weren't getting the shots they wanted, they were stifled defensively, and they couldn't get everyone involved. It wasn't a balanced offense anymore. it became one or two guys doing all the scoring. That's how you have to beat them. You have to beat them by forcing them to do something they don't want to do. The Celtics thrive on a balanced offense. Every game I've seen the Celtics win this year, it's because 5 or 6 guys are all in double figures. Almost everyone is getting touches. Almost everyone is getting the ball in the basket. Everyone has a high confidence level. They're making their shots. You can't let the Celtics have a balanced offense if you're going to beat them. You have to force them to just feed it to one guy and let that guy get his points. Because you can beat the Celtics and Kemba Walker or Jason Tatum go off for 39. But you're not going to beat the Celtics if Kemba has 21 and Tatum has 22 and Gordon Hayward has 19 and Jaylen Brown goes off for 24. You're not going to beat them that way. You can't, because you can't let everyone get involved. Because the more balanced their offense is, the harder it is to slow them down and the less chances you are going to have as an offense like the Sixers that was actually a mediocre offense this year. They scored on average almost 4 less points per game than the Celtics this year. That's a serious difference. The Sixers' efficiency was not there offensively all year long. So you can't hope to just outscore them. You have to outsmart them. And we know that in the 3-1 regular season, they were able to do things to them that they couldn't do otherwise. And the Sixers starting lineup is out. It's Joel Embiid, it's Al Horford, it's Tobias Harris, it's Jason Richardson, and it's Shake Milton. So no Matisse Thybulle in the starting lineup. And again, I go back to what Mark Jackson said, NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Bash just a few days ago.
Boston Celtics had a guy that gave Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons fits, and that's Al Horford. With Al Horford in his 76ers uniform, I think that helps and leads the needle a little bit our way.
I'm going with that. I think the Sixers can win this game tonight. I think they can put the Celtics in a position where they start questioning themselves, and I think the Sixers will eventually win the series. Because I think that Joel Embiid is the best player in this series, and if he's dominating, they can win any game. If Tobias Harris stays focused, they can win any game. And if they play the level of defense this team is capable of, they can win. Maybe Al Horford is the key. Maybe that's why he started lineup Matisse Thybulle. I was a big believer in putting Thybulle in starting lineup, but for whatever reason, Brett Brown doesn't believe in that. Sixers Celtics next, right here on 97.3 ESPN. I did mention some MMA news, so Stipe Miocic did win the heavyweight championship, defended it over the weekend. Daniel Cormier retires. John Jones vacates the belt. Do not be surprised if it's John Jones versus Stipe Miocic next July. Calling it right here. The UFC loves those super cards, either the weekend of the Super Bowl or that weekend right after 4th of July. John Jones will be on one of those cards, I believe, at heavyweight. He vacated the belt. He's going to move up. Watch out. Super fight coming in the UFC. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Catch you tomorrow after the Flyers game.